here's one way that I'd like to show you to do some tail spinning. What this really is, let's see, we're going to take, pardon my fingers, I was doing some dyeing and they look pretty horrible. I have a lot of really long locks. These happen to be Teeswater. You could use Wensleydale just as easily. I'm going to lay a few locks out. These are super long. These have been rinsed, but they have not been scoured, so you can see there's still a little bit of, like that one has a little dirt. We will get that, you can get that out when you're either before you start your tail spinning, or after you've done your tail spinning. You can work on the locks a little bit. In this case, I'm going to dye them because I think some of these are a little stained. So I'm going to be dyeing this after I tail spin. You know, you don't have to, however, you could dye these locks just as easily before you started. So either way, I'm going to lay the locks out with the shorn side to my left, right here. That's the blunt end. Those are the little curls on the end. This happens to be a Hogget fleece, and you can see the little tiny curls on the end. That's when the lamb was born, and it has not been blunt cut. If this had been sheared, those little tiny curls, really teeny tiny ones at the end, wouldn't be there. It would just be a blunt cut, which would be perfectly fine. So we are going to do a coreless tail spin. So this is not for the faint of heart. I'm going to break off some roving, and I'm going to split it in two. And I'm going to start, as you can see I've already started this this yarn. Just flipping those over. This is going to be a single. I am not going to ply this, so I don't want too much twist to build up. So I'm splitting the roving. I'm going to add a little roving on this hand. Not quite yet so much on there. If you're not familiar with a coreless corespin, Shepherd's Talk does offer some videos on that technique. This is not something that you probably want to learn your coreless corespin on these long locks. You might want to practice your coreless corespin first and then get into this particular way of tail spinning. So what I'm going to do, take the other section of my, boy, I've got a lot of stuff on my lap here. Just for the purposes of showing you, I've split my roving in two, and I have a fairly short piece of roving. Once you get the hang of this, you can do it any way you want to, and you won't have to actually split this. But what I'm doing here is I'm adding my roving here. Okay, there's my tail locked in. I'm going to take a long tail, a long lock. I'm going to take a long lock. I'm going to open the tail end and put half of it to the back and half of it to the front. It's really not the front and the back, but can you see that? Half of the lock is going toward the wheel and half of the lock is going away from the wheel. I have my coreless roving. The part I'm going to be core spinning, I'm going to move in a clockwise direction, core spin around part of that tail, and then core spin around the other part of that tail. I'm going to stop, grab another lock, split it in half, throw one to the front of the wheel, facing the wheel. Hope you can see that. It's a little hard to see exactly what I'm doing here, but here's part of this long lock that I've split and it's heading toward the wheel. Here's one that's heading away from the wheel. I'm then going to take my half of my roving and I'm going to core spin the part of the tail that's facing the wheel, and then I'm just going to let that tail hang. Now I'm going to core spin the part of the tail that was facing me. And there you go. And you can add a whole lot of these. What I like about this technique is it really does lock the tails in well. It's not quite as fussy as some other techniques. When you get the hang of it, you can go pretty quickly, actually, adding one and then that one. Stop, add another one. Just like any other tail spinning, you may have to grab a little more roving here. You may have to stop and feed this onto your wheel. Okay, I don't need much roving, I just need a little roving here to start my corespin. Also, like any other tail spin, you have to untwist your long locks. And let's get some onto the wheel here. There. Okay, so we're going to start again with this one. I have half roving in one direction at a right angle, half the roving hanging down. I'm going to split my tail. Oh, I'm going to put part of that tail facing me and part of that tail facing the wheel. Grab my core material, what I'm using to corespin with, that part of the roving, and roll right over the part that was facing the wheel and then the part that was not. I'm going to stop there, grab another tail, split it, put some of it facing me, some of it facing the wheel, grab my core, what I'm using for core spinning, allow that to lock one side of it, and then allow it to lock the other side. Now what I like about this is if you get too tight, if you've spun too much at a time, you can stop and let the twist out because you haven't got a whole lot of roving here. And this is going to be a single, so you don't want it to be way overdone. Let's see how we've done here and here. Undo that a little bit, undo this a little bit. Yeah, and see, these are really nicely in there. And for a single, we can let some of that twist out. It's really not terribly over twisted. When you let go of it, let's get some out here. When you let go of it, boy, look at all those long tails. These long locks are just beautiful. Sometimes they get a little tangly, but it's not a big deal. You can see it's not twisting back on itself. Take out a little more so I can show you that a little bit better. Of course, every time you take it out of the orifice, you have to kind of organize the locks again. But can you see it's really not terribly over twisted? A little bit there. Actually, now that I've done that, I think I will ask my wheel to pull this on a little faster. I think so. And I'm going to relax some of this spin so I don't have the twist, too much twist going there. I'm going to split my roving again. I'm going to grab a lock. I'm going to throw one in up and high and low. I'm going to grab another lock, split it, put one facing me, one facing the wheel, take my coreless part, which I need a little more roving there, I'm going to add in, and we're just going to corespin right around the part that's facing the wheel, and now corespin right around the part that's facing me. Stop. Grab another one. Tail spinning is tedious, no matter how you do it, I think. But this is an interesting way. If you're a good, if you're comfortable core spinning, it really is an easy way to do this. You don't need a core. You don't need a core yarn. You need a core roving. And you just roll around the one, and then roll around the other, and then stop. Grab another lock. All you're really trying to do is get this locked in. Uh-oh. There. That's in there. I find core spinning is easier too, not to put too much over twist in. You don't need a whole lot of twist to keep this locked in. You just simply need this bit of roving to wrap on the one and wrap on the other end of this. And you're good. Again, split it. One and one. Wrap the top part, wrap the bottom part, and then we'll unwrap all of those locks because they twist right around your yarn. They're not locked in there, they're just twisted around there. If you feel you have too much twist in your single at this point, you can let some of it go. Yeah. And that will still stay. You know, the integrity of your yarn is fine because you are core spinning it in. So I will show you this when it's done, but that's one way to core spin, to tail spin your locks in with a coreless core spinning technique.